this is where assortment also comes into picture. Assortment, as I said, is also one of the important concepts. We'll look through the processes. So these are called as distribution chains. Every store in your SAP retail system is assigned with a sales org and distribution combination, and that is where the stores can do its operations. For example, if a store is assigned with the distribution chain, a combination of Sweden, let's take some products also. Let's take
One question here. Here
yeah, sure.
here the store site IDs must be different, right? I mean, Little Sweden site ID would be
Yes.
different with
Yeah.
from Little Norway.
Yeah, there are 100
So
stores, right? So there will be 100 different store IDs in the system.
yeah, so the store IDs will be different from Sweden to Norway. So
Right.
we can simply assign this. I mean, there is a unique site ID is there between the two countries. So why we need
It doesn't
another
necessarily
distribution chain out there?
it doesn't necessarily have to be unique between the how will you say that just by looking at the store, how will you say that because in another important information, the store is a 4-digit code in SAP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just by looking at the store, we wouldn't be able to do the assortment processes without having the distribution chain being specified, because just by the stores we wouldn't be able to do the assortment processes and replenishment processes. Every transactional information that you're carrying out in retail process is based on the distribution chain, because distribution chain is the one which says which sales org and distribution channel combination decides which kind of place that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
For Little Sweden, it might have something like this. For example, let's take the sales org as 1000, maybe 1000, and 10 as the distribution channel information. And for Norway, it might have something like this, 200 and 2000 and 10 as the distribution channel. And for Finland, it probably can have something called as 3000 and 10. This I will also come to the distribution channel process. Distribution chain is the main differentiator between which is being sold in which place. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing that we will have to remember is distribution chain plays a higher role in the organizational check information, and then comes the store. You should always look at the distribution chain as the biggest. Let's take Lidl as a company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the company, and it has its branches in 3 different countries. Let's take, and it will have a lot of different stores in every country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the country plays the major or topmost organizational information, and then comes the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why distribution chain is very important. So most of the retail companies have their it depends on the structure again. Most of the times, how if it is a global client, and if they are having their outstretched stores in most of the global places, they will always have the country as the highermost structure, because most of the transactions will happen on the country level, and that's where you will be able to define the pricing information and the currency of your transactions. So most of the companies will define the country as the topmost organizational structure. So Lidl as an entity, it has its places in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. Let's take this as the distribution chain information, and they are having always the store sales, and they can have multiple stores under each distribution chain. This is how the organizational structure is defined. That's why distribution chain plays a major role. So if Lidl decides to sell, for example, Indian groundnut, for example, if Lidl decides to sell Indian groundnut in its Finnish stores, what it will do is it will assign the article or the material, the Indian groundnut, in the distribution chain Finland. Okay. In that case,
Mm-hmm.
what will happen is that that material is applicable for to be sold in all the places, meaning all the stores which are in Finland are eligible for selling the material, the Indian groundnut, in all of its stores. So it doesn't Lidl doesn't necessarily have to go to every store and assign that article to be available in that store. If it applies it on the distribution chain level, it also
Mhm.
means that it is readily available to be sold in all of its stores underneath that distribution chain.
So one country can have a single distribution chain, or multiple distribution chains are also
Yes,
assigned
that
to
is
a.
also possible. Yeah. Distribution chain is always a combination of sales org and distribution channel. Distribution channel is nothing but how you are going to sell your articles. For example, you can also, Lidl can have online store sales.
Mhm.
It can have store sales, and it can also have third party sales, right? So in by what method it is going to have its sale is called as distribution channel. For now I'm able to think only of these three methods: online, store sales, and then the third party sales. These could be only the possible distribution channels. Again, I'm talking only about the retail aspects now. There could be a few other companies which are dealing with few other distribution channel informations, but on a higher level I'm telling you this information. So the combination of your sales org and distribution channel is what determines the distribution chain. Whatever example that I have told right now, I was assuming that the Lidl has store sales only in these countries. Okay, it can also have online sales, and in that case, we will have one more layer where it says like this.
So multiple distribution channels. Yeah.
Multiple distribution channels. Is
So,
it
so
not?
sales org could be a like one-to-one mapping for country. One country will have one sales org, or it can have multiple sales orgs.
It depends on how organization is being used or set up. That's how it happened in H&M, and I'm pretty sure that is the structure in Lidl as well. Maybe M&S, which is based out of UK, they can have different structure, but most of the cases this is how the retail companies design their organizational structure in the system.
Country
Yeah,
sales
country.
org,
Sorry,
sales
go
org
ahead,
can be
sir.
one. Country sales org can be single or multiple, and once or to one sales org we can have multiple distribution channels, and to that we assign a store,
Yes.
multiple stores. Yeah.
For example, it is not necessary that we always assign stores to this distribution chain. If you are selling
Mhm.
it online, it is not needed that you have a store, right? In that case, you don't
Exactly.
even
Yeah.
want a store. Yeah. So it depends
Mhm.
on what is it that you're dealing with. The examples that I was talking to you right now were all stores. I'm not sure if you are aware of this company called the PVH, which is the Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein brands.
Yeah, I know those
They're
brands,
based
but
out.
PDH I don't know.
Yeah.
Tommy
Yeah,
Hilfiger and
PVH is the
there is.
company which owns these
Mhm.
brands. Okay, so how do
Mhm.
they do their business? Is that they also do something called as omni-channel. They also do something called as store sales. They also do something called as online sales, and they also do something called as third-party sales, and they also do something called as it's a good term. I forgot that name. I will let you know by tomorrow. So they are also dealing a number of ways of how they deal with their sales, but the base setup is how your sales org and distribution channel are being clubbed together, and what is it that is assigned underneath is plays a major role.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, this is how the organizational structure will be. We will also go through the organizational part, organizational structure first, and then we will go through the material master processes. That's when you'll be able to understand. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when we say that we are going to decide to or when an organization decides to sell something in a specific distribution chain, we are trying to say that that is applicable for all of the underneath organizational structures. It can be stores, or it can also be a distribution center, or it can also be an online sale platform, or it can also be a third party sale platform. It could be anything. So we are trying to say that when something is available on a distribution chain level, it is also available on all the organization structures underneath that.
Okay.
Okay, that's a little about the processes of how things work between ERP and the POS and then the car system, as well as the organizational structure here. Okay. Um, Today we'll see a little bit about the store processes. The reason why I emphasize on store process is that sometimes it becomes a little overwhelming information when we see it at the later stage. So when we are with a fresh mind, we'll see through the store informations. I will first start with the way that it can be seen in the system, and from there on I'll go through the configuration part.